Howdy, y'all. It's Ryan from RNA Music, deep in the heart of Texas, except I'm not deep in the heart of Texas. I'm deep in the heart of Fort Collins, Colorado, at David Wallimann's studio.
Welcome.
Thank you, David. It's wonderful to be here with the Robert Baker.
Mr. RB.
Mr.
Yo,
Robert
just call
Baker.
Me RB.
It's been a great time. We've been at a clinic with Vola Guitars and Revv amplification at my good friend Ike's store, Flipside Music.
Yeah.
And that was last night. They were phenomenal. You'll see video of that, I'm sure. But we're here at David's shooting some videos together, and I'm really excited because I'm going to pick their brains like a zombie
I don't have
picker.
All right.
I don't
of
have
some
much
kind.
left, so be kind.
They were musicians.
Yeah.
You picked the wrong people.
Yeah.
I think I picked the right people because David has released and written albums. You write a lot of music for your channel and playing. And
Yeah.
my question today really has to do with writing and composing music, developing ideas, riffs into full-blown pieces of music, into songs. We do a lot of teaching, and that's one of the things I try to get with my students, the beginners and intermediates, to, hey, as soon as possible, try to create something. Even with very limited skill sets, and like, hey, let's make something, because I know a lot of people, and y'all probably do too, that have played guitar for years and are great at playing riffs and other people's songs, but have maybe never tried to write something themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think I would love to hear your insights, and for myself, because I've been working on an EP for like 5 years that I've just...
We were waiting.
I know.
Ready.
Yes.
The bitter bass man is also waiting, but I'm at that phase where I'm trying to put parts together too and develop the structure. Right. So any thoughts, ideas, tips on taking something from nothing, taking nothing and making it something? So
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Well, I got something.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really require a guitar, but a few years back, I was asked to do some demo songs for Overloud TH3, the software.
Yeah.
And so I had to write like 4 songs using the presets, and I asked myself the question too, because I had a limited amount of time to write those things.
Yeah.
And so what I did, I went back to some instrumental songs I liked, like there's some Paul Gilbert stuff, some Satriani, and just songs I liked.
Mm-hmm.
And I just listened to them, and as I was listening, I had a sheet of paper in front of me. And instead of thinking in terms like intro, verse, and all that, I just had my own symbols. Like if a song started with, maybe I will use a guitar.
Yeah.
It feels weird not to have something.
Yeah.
Hand it over, Robert. Baker.
Like if a song started with some, I'm gonna make up something like a riff. Okay, so that's a section, right?
Right.
And so I wrote a symbol, like a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
Song goes on, and there's a new section, something else, like maybe mellow chords, whatever it is, another symbol. And at the end, I had the song structure with symbols, some were recurring.
Mm-hmm.
So you can use symbols, you can use verse, chorus. I don't like to do that because it's fun to not do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Do something
Or colors.
different.
But then I kind of saw like some kind of pattern with instrumental songs specifically that was a little different than country songs or pop songs, something like that.
Right.
And so I created a template in Logic with sections, And then I'll just record a riff on one of those, like the color blue, that section blue. I just record the riff. And anytime I had the color blue coming back according to a template, I copied and pasted. And then the red color would be another thing, and so forth.
Oh, that's smart.
And then I had all those. I had a big piece, and then all I had to do was transitions, like make them smooth. With tricks like sometimes you would play like a guitar lick and harmonize it, or just little things to go from one to the other. But that's kind of a tip that I would encourage people to try. And
That's smart.
it was fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Robert. Thoughts?
Here, you're
guitar?
naked here.
I know. No one look. Here we go. I think for writing, at least me anyways, if I get stuck on like something, I sometimes it's like, you get stuck in the mindset, like if it's a rock song.
Right.
Like you're writing a riff. Then you're like, all right, well, I'm going to follow it with another rock riff. You're like, and that sounds really cool. But then sometimes I'm like, it doesn't have like the dynamic part. So it's like, try to think polar opposite. And to me, it's where like learning different styles come into play in one of the songs at the clinic.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to say
I
that.
have
yeah.
that. I have the one where it's like that. I don't remember the exact riff. Whatever the riff is, and it goes down, and it's like you think it's gonna follow just like 1, 4, 5. It goes into like a blues shuffle thing, but then it goes to like a jazz.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like I just like it because it really it shifts gears on you. So sometimes I think it's cool to have that big part where you're just like, the riff is building up, and it drops to a whole different part, and like you learn all these different styles, and then you're just like, oh, that's cool. And then that idea leads you down a whole different path. Then it's like, I could have just kept it all rock.
Yeah.
And that would have worked out great too. But then now there's this whole new avenue that your brain kind of starts like, I can do this with it now. And it gets really exciting doing that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. What's your balance between, say, playing just sort of what feels and sounds good intrinsically versus like, okay, I have my theory. I'm in the key of, B flat, so I'm going to use 1, 4, 5, minor 6, 2 chords. Like tapping into your theory knowledge versus like, oh, that was cool. What did I do? Let's develop that. Do y'all have a balance between that?
So the guitar is the mic, right?
Yeah. It's like the talking
baton,
stick.
yeah,
Like no one can talk unless you have the guitar.
That's a good question. I think for me, I never write with theory in mind.
Right.
Always either it starts with just me playing, or oftentimes I think the most interesting ideas to me are when I actually don't have the guitar and I'm just humming in the shower or something, and then I try to replicate that here. But so it never starts with me thinking, okay, I'm going to write something in Phrygian or Dorian, unless I'm doing a specific exercise,
Right.
or for a student or something.
Right.
But theory does help when I was talking about those transition pieces between riffs. To make them as musical as possible, sometimes I have to dig into the theory, like how can I go from this key to this one? They seem very opposite, and that's where I look at theory to try to find a scale or a piece, or to piece things together. But
Yeah.
do you write using theory concepts?
Sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Sometimes like you
Oh,
said.
very.
Oh, sorry.
You got to have the guitar.
Yeah.
Yes, start again.
It depends. Like you said, sometimes if you're writing with like you almost like it's like forced writing, helps a lot. Sometimes it helps, like whether it's like I need an idea, so you might use like a, whatever the key is. It's like, okay, I'll use like a 1, 6, 2, 5 or something like that. Like that stuff helps because then I'm like I might build the riff around like
True. Yeah.
and then it's kind of like I think leaning on theory a little bit more, but most of it is just kind of like you said, you just kind of feel it. Like I might hear that riff, and then over top of it, I want it like already in my head. I heard the next part. I'm like,
Yeah.
I could kind of hear like the next part that I was wanting to hear after that. So I've always just viewed it as like stacking rhythms. You know?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So would you say kind of like if you get stuck, and then maybe you examine the theory to kind of go, this is the chord I ended on, or the tones.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think the line gets kind of blurred because when you first start playing, you don't know anything about anything. If
Right.
someone asks you to play a C major, you've got to think a little bit and like analyze that thing. This is a C major. But at some point, it's so natural that it becomes part of your vocabulary.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, you learn a new language. Well, you start with the grammar, the rules, especially as an adult. A baby's different, but an adult will do things like that. And then, you don't think about it, right? You have the theory, you're using theory, but you don't know that it's theory necessarily.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you're right, like to stretch yourself or you can go there for things that are maybe not super comfortable, but at some point, it will become comfortable and you won't really think in terms of theory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think you steal little things from time to time, and you might not even know the theory. Like Yngwie does this really cool thing where I don't know what the chord progression is, but he did something where he's like, whatever that he was all talking about. But I was like, oh, he's doing it out of the key of E, and I was like, that's super interesting the way he in context of his riff, it made total sense. That just sounded like random noise. But you just kind of like steal those things, and you save them. You're like, oh yeah, and then later on down the road, you might not even remember where you got it from, but you just kind of like you're like, oh, you're like, oh but then it kind of resolves it, and then all of a sudden you're bouncing around with stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, good stuff. All right, so this is going to be. I'm going to put the pressure on you.
Nice.
You're ready. Burn one, keep one,
turn
sell
this
one.
coal into a diamond.
Right. So let's say, for example, like I said, we have a lot of beginner and intermediates. Let's say you have someone they have a handle on their like open position cowboy chords. Maybe they know one position pentatonic scale or maybe two pentatonic shapes. What kind of exercise or challenge would you give a student like that to kind of push them to write something or create something? Any tips?
I think he was looking at you.
Oh, me?
I'm looking at both of y'all.
I
Whichever.
wasn't paying attention. I was paying attention. So this is your question.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I was doing the switch here.
Oh.
So for a very beginner student
Okay.
who knows their basic chords and maybe one or two scale shapes, how would you push them to write something, create something? Easy, like simplified. Simple tips.
Okay. Do you want to go first, or?
You have the guitar.
I have an idea that is forming. It's still forming.
Okay.
So it will be formed once you finish. If you have something
fully formed.
Yeah.
I think a real easy way, and this just goes into like learning the notes on the fingerboard, because so many of those cowboy chord positions are, like you take like an F chord, like it's just a triad and it's very movable. And what I try to do with students is like, even if you don't know the rest of the notes, what's the root note here? So if you know what this note is, I know that's an F, followed by this shape, even if you don't know the notes, and it's a major third, it's a that kind of stuff. If I move it up here, now it's an A. Well, I'm like, I know an A here, I know an A here, and with your D chord, again, that's your root note, that's your D. Well, I want to play an A chord, move it up to an A note. I'm like, well, shoot, I know A. It just kind of keeps going to these A chords all over the place on the neck, and it's kind of like you're playing to your strength at that point. Like, these are all shapes they already know,
right?
And you move them around, and they're like, I know. Like, literally that D chord, you know how to play 12 different major chords, 15 if the person wants to be like,
right?
A flat and G sharp are the same thing, but that was always something that when I would do that with students, they're like, and it's almost like gets them excited to learn the notes. Then they're like, I can do all that with just knowing the notes. I'm like, yeah.
Awesome.
For me, it's maybe a little more conceptual. So
bring it on.
I would say, and I say it a lot, but it's so true. Just to, you have your guitar. So start with the chord that you know. If you started with this, and just imagine that this is the beginning of a real song. It's not just a chord. It's like, and then you just imagine, just use your voice. Na 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 na. Okay, cool. Or da 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 da. And then try to imagine the next part. Da 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 ba da. Okay, I don't want da. I want something else here. And then fish through all your other chords. Da. Oh, okay. Da 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 da. That works. Or da 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 da. Maybe A minor. Da. Cool. Or maybe sometimes da 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 da. No. So you fix it and you kind of learn like that.
So a little bit of trial and error. Like,
I think so.
What do I like the sound of?
Yeah. Well, it teaches you to really use your ear. You're relying completely on your ear, and it makes you, I think, probably like very instinctive.
I think so. And if you find something cool, that's where you kind of dig deep, like you're almost like a researcher. why did this work? And that'll lead you down an interesting path where you can learn new stuff, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Awesome. All right, so one final question for you guys, really quick, and this will be kind of fun, I think, for me. What is the fastest you ever had to write a piece of music, either for, whether it's for a demo, for a product or a company, or for, what's the quickest, most compressed time you've had to create something and be satisfied with it, if you're ever satisfied?
Yeah. That's
You're never satisfied, I guess.
I've got to think about this one.
Yeah.
I'm not often put in that situation, but I'm sure it happened in the past. This is not really answering your question, but for this clinic that we did yesterday, I had these songs like floating around for a long time. We just had progressions and stuff. They were not finished at all. But that probably would be an example where the last few days, like maybe 2-3 days before the clinic, I had to go back and try to make things a little smooth. That's an example, but
So a couple of days.
Yeah, something like that. But it was not from start to finish.
Right.
It would be a great exercise to do on the channel, though.
Yeah.
I love those videos. Like, there's a bunch of YouTubers who do that. Like
1 hour to write a song.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Yeah, but that's kind of like a challenge. I'm thinking like you have a deadline to do something for work related, possibly, or you've got to record a track and send it to a producer somewhere, and like, there it is. Like,
I know the exact one and the exact video that the song is in. It was for my 2 Notes Torpedo Live. So they sent. I got one of those. I bought it from all that stuff, and I was supposed to make a demo, and they needed it really soon. Like I hadn't even started on it. They needed it. They're like, is there any way you can get it to us by like Friday? And it was like Wednesday. So I literally Thursday I wrote the whole song and then shot the video and did everything, and was like overly like pretty happy with the song. I mean, it's not as like happy as you would be if you could really spend time with it, but I was just kind of like, you're crunched because you can't just spend the whole time writing the song. There's a lot of editing that goes into it.
Yeah.
And then, just recording in general, mixing it and all that. So yeah, it was like probably like I just had like a day to, come up with a whole concept. Because whatever the riff was, it was something like that, and then you just kind of like, well, the solo is just gonna have to be improvised, so you just kind of like wing it. But yeah, so that's definitely the one that I had to like crank out, and I was like, I'm pretty happy with the song.
So about a day and a half.
Yeah.
Pressure.
Yeah.
Sometimes deadlines are good.
Yes.
They are. Yeah, but it can be good. It forces creativity, but the majority of the time I don't enjoy that.
Yeah, I don't either. But it forces you to make the right choices too.
Yeah, quickly, and you just kind of roll with like.
To be okay with what you did.
Yeah.
That's okay. It's gonna have to be okay because it's time to go on to the next one.
Yeah.
I keep extending my own deadlines, so I never get far enough along.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think it's a common thing amongst musicians, though. Like I would work on a song for months and years, and for one little solo, I'd do 250 takes. I don't even realize why am I redoing this. I'm just like locked into this mode where I enjoy the process, but so deadlines can be good. Yeah.
I would say I found what helped me, like even in your situation, is I'll announce like if it's something I'm releasing. I'm like, I'm releasing it on this date.
Yep.
If I just like I just keep postponing it, I'm like, I'm releasing it on this date. So then you now have a time frame that it has to, like there's no other option. People know, they're waiting on it.
They're going to mock you if it's not done.
Yeah.
What happened to your EP?
Yeah. Well, even
working on it.
Yeah. Well, even Ike, like with the shop, he was saying he's like, he's been working on that back room, but then he had a deadline now for the
Vola
Clinic, and he's like, I got to get it done. So he was like, it really like pushed me to make sure that this stuff was done and ready, because now he had a date that he had to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Pressure. Love it. All right. Well, I think that's probably quite a bit of information for everyone to chew on and evaluate, and hopefully go out and try to create something.
Good stuff.
I'm super excited about that. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for opening up your studio, David, for us.
Yeah,
and
thank you, man.
Sure.
Until the next time, keep the music alive. Music needs you. We need the music, and we need to create some music.
That's right.
All of us.
Yes.
Give it a shot. What's the worst that can happen? You don't like it?
I want writing credits on all your music.
Publishing. That's what Steve Vai says.
Yeah.
Steve Vai says, own your publishing. Or give it to me. It's fine. Whichever. That's your good. So. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Later, guys.
Bye.